morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
The snow is just about gone and the grass is growing. The horses are almost all shed out, and my good mare Cody has gone from being a bay to a real pretty roan. She does that in the spring and the fall, and I'm putting a lot of miles on her and Stanley. Now, this week, I'm really glad to welcome that grizzled guitar-picking legend of the music world, Nathan Tinkham, back. And he'll have some terrific stories about the trails he's ridden and the legends he's known.
And he played part of it, and then he said, "That guy could have been the greatest of them all if he hadn't have gone commercial."
And you'll find out who Nathan is talking about very shortly. Baxter Black takes a less than affectionate look at springtime in the Rockies.
Sandblasting your face, freezing your reined hand into a claw,
and new concerns about the health of cattle on the range from a respected veterinarian on the Rangeland News.
Because there's no fences and we've got cows and bulls mixing.
On the horse training file, if that horse does not change leads in this situation, you'll lose that cow and feel like you're riding a bicycle with two flat tires. Yeah, it's important stuff that can really keep you and your horse safe and in sync. And I dug out another beautiful classic song of the West. It has an interesting story behind it. Brian Salmond has an epic in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight. And we've got the best of the New West, some great songs from outstanding Western writers and singers. And I'll visit with Nathan Tinkham after Bob Marshall leads us out the gate.
Chris Ledoux lays in my truck. The carpet smells like horse. I breathe it in and start to grin. It's the scent that I love most. Kind of fond of country bars. Love those neon lights. Western swing and steel guitars. And a girl who treats me right. Yes, I'm a real cowboy. Ride for the brand, big sky above me. I'm a real steady hand. I love my mama's cooking. Ride a handsome cowboy, dance holding my partner. Yes, I'm a real cowboy. Seen that look in a lady's eyes 100 times before. Watching silently my walk as I cross that old dance floor. She's had the rest, now she wants the best. A real live Western guy. She'll ask the question on her mind, then wait for my reply. Yes, I'm a real cowboy. I ride for the brand, big sky above me. I'm a real steady hand. I love my mama's cooking. Ride a handsome cowboy. I dance holding my partner. Yes, I'm a real cowboy. I've seen the girls that wanna brag to friends about their man, then tries to change him from cowboy boots to to Oxford's if she can. But I'm a real cowboy. I ride for the brand. Big sky above me. I'm a real steady hand. I love my mama's cooking. Ride a handsome cowboy. I dance holding my partner. Yes, I'm a real cowboy. I dance holding my partner. Yes, I'm a real cowboy.
If you were with us last week, no doubt you'll remember some of Nathan Tinkham's great stories from his days riding on the famous D Ranch to some of the legendary performers he's worked with. And Nathan is back this week, so what else is going on in your world these days?
You know, another thing I'm doing, and this will be of interest to you, 20 years ago, I wrote a one-man show on Wilf Carter. And it was for a tour with a group, opening for a group called Quartet, and it was for the trail riders of the Canadian Rockies. So I've had this thing, and sporadically I go out and I do this show. I'm rewriting this now. This is when I go home. I have 2 months with, until this play gets presented. And I'm working with an actress who's going to be my drama coach. And I'm rewriting this thing. It's about Wilf Carter, the greatest Canadian guy of all. And so that's my next thing. I did work in musical theater for a Patsy Cline show because I played the lap steel guitar. I got hired. This whole other world. Yeah. And this is like this is Vancouver, like top-notch stuff. And, very demanding, precise work, But I got to work with actors and stuff for a few years. And so this is, my next evolution, my next reinvention is I'm going to be going out and touring with this show about Wilf.
Where, do you know what locations it's going to play at? Or
No. This right now, I've done this. I've toured Nova Scotia with it. I've toured Saskatchewan. I've played it up in the Yukon. I've done some in BC. But what this is going to be is a refinement of the show. And I have on June the 4th, on Gabriola at the Phoenix Theater, I'm going to walk out on stage and have to do this.
Oh, man.
So, but that's fine. So this is what but I can do that now. I say, well, this is what my next 2 months is dedicated towards. Then I want to go out and tour this. Because, shamefully, when's the last time you heard that name mentioned? Wilf Carter.
Well, yeah.
He died 20 years ago. Ian told me he figured that Wilf Carter had a bigger influence on music than Elvis.
That's quite possible.
Don
Edwards told me the same thing.
Yeah. And Ramblin' Jack Elliott once told me, he said, that Woody Guthrie, he said, come here, I want to play you something. And he put a Wilf Carter record on, and he played part of it. And then he said, that guy could have been the greatest of them all if he hadn't have gone commercial. But Jack figured that Woody was jealous.
Wow.
And
that could be. Well, there's more memories of Wilf Carter and other country music legends from Nathan Tinkham and one of his very well-written original songs when The Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to The Spirit of the West. Nathan Tinkham has been that quiet guy standing on stage beside the big star, playing sweet lead guitar and making the star sound so good. Kind of like my brother Jim and Mike Daggert do for me. Anyhow, he was on a first-name basis with a lot of classic country legends.
Well, I know like Wilf and Hank Snow they were friends and good friends, but there was a thing that was between them. And I think what it was, like Hank was the bigger star, but Wilf really was the guy, the grassroots people.
Yeah.
he was the guy that the grassroots people, and of a certain age, any farmer that sings, you scratch them as Wilf Carter. They sing like Wilf, they play like Wilf. And so when I go out and tour this thing, you know, there's a lot of people people say, who comes to your shows? I say, well, it's old people bringing their parents. And,
that's right.
And, but this is like, they're just joyous at this because this is their thing. They don't care about Taylor Swift. They don't care about any of this bro country stuff or whatever. And so when I get to do these shows, like in rural Saskatchewan or whatever, Wilf is their man. Yeah. And they are so happy, to have him.
Yeah. Well, that takes me back to when and I'm a few years older than you are, but I grew up, of course, listening to that stuff and listening to Wilf Carter. And you're just thinking about how, what a tradition of Western-flavored country music with some folk influences we've had for so long in Western Canada. When I was a little kid, I listened to Stu Davis on the radio. I mean, I couldn't wait to get home from school to listen to Saddle Your Worries to a Cowboy song and Yodel Your Troubles Away. Yeah. And then he would bring on 8-year-old Dwayne, his son. First thing I heard him sing was Candy Kisses. Yeah. Well, dream came true a few years ago. I had to be on stage with Dwayne Stewart, Stu Davis' son. And, boy, the memories and the stories. And it goes back, and then it comes all the way up in through guys like yourself and David Wilkie and Gary Felgard and, Cindy Church, of course, the Great Western Orchestra, and wonderful keyboard player.
Stuart McDougall?
Stuart McDougall. Yeah. I mean, wow. It's just, I don't think the world realizes what a wealth of talent we have.
Well, this talent is everywhere. And, the business is a funny thing. And, I used to be naive about it. I think, well, if I get good enough, then it'll all happen. Well, no. Because you need to want it really bad. And that's the more important thing. Like, if you want it, if this is important to you, like, definitely for Cindy and I, we wanted to have success. We did get a lot of radio airplay, but we didn't go for radio airplay. Maybe a little bit. We'd think about it. We did what it was that we wanted to.
And we just can't go any further without playing a Wilf Carter song. And this one might have been long forgotten, but one of the finest bronc riders to ever climb in the saddle. Here's Wilf.
This is a great honor to a great man, Pete Knight. So here we go. Odelay, 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 odelay. Listen a while to my story about a lad from the wide open plain. He has won a great name the world over, Pete Knight, king of rodeo fame. He was raised at Crossfield, Alberta, just a little cow town in the west. Unless he was out amongst the broncos, it seems he was never at rest. He took a real love for the saddle, like most of us boys in the West. How he'd watch them cowboys riding, on Sundays it seemed was the best. One day he cornered a bronco, using a sack for a blind. Stuck on the saddle, pull away the blind, yell cowboy, just let him unwind. Odelay, 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 odelay. From that day he made it a practice, each day a bronco to tame. And now he's the king of all cowboys that ever set foot on the range. He'd come out of the chute just a-kickin', both feet high up in the mane. The bronc did his best to unload him, but that hoss never lived he can't tame. He's ridden in all the stampedes, a-going north, south, east, and west. At the World's Fair held at Chicago, he won the World Bronc Riding Contest. But Pete, like all other cowboys, a girl came into his life. He took her hand at the altar, there made her his loving wife. But Canada's proud of her cowboy, who has won great honor and fame. Let's take off our hats to the king of them all, Pete Knight from the Alberta plain. Odelay, 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 odelay.
From Wilf Carter to Ian Tyson, Nathan Tinkham knew them all.
That was what it was about, was the music. And that's, and that's why, I always tell people, I clawed my way to the middle.
Yeah.
And,
Anyway, I had another question for you. Did you ever get horseback with Ian in those days?
No, I've never been horseback with Ian.
Is that right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Do you still ride much? Or
No,
get much
I haven't
chance?
been on a horse since I left Alberta.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I got a kayak.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I really enjoyed it, but like I learned late in life, and I'm not like I say, I'm not the guy to go galloping across the field. I was quite happy to sit and move cattle and go along at a walk or a trot. I was fine with that. But no, that's why I haven't played one of these in 20 years, and I miss the culture and the people, like the way the people are. And I get a lot of that. I go up to the Yukon a lot. I spend time up in Dawson City, and I have to, the coast is a lovely place, but it's, it's more settled. It's really quite, there's that whole thing about being able to be a large person. Like in the Yukon, if you see somebody across the road, you can yell at them, Well, you do that on Gabriel,
A little different.
there are people there that kind of more, held in and I really like, and I like in Alberta, especially down, you get out of the city and the characters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they, it's like that in the Yukon too. You're allowed to become who you are without this being censored. Right. And, either if you're censored for your political beliefs or you're censored because maybe you blow your nose on the napkin or something, whatever. I just saw that.
I did too, somewhere.
Yeah, I did. And so it's it's really fun for me. Guys like Gordy Collier. I mean, we were talking about it this morning. We lived in that area at a time. That was when the whole thing was happening. The thing with Ian was happening, the Great Western Orchestra, and we'd play at the Longview Bar. It'd be full of cowboy hats, and it's not like that anymore. It
isn't.
The time has passed,
yeah.
And those people, they're dead, or they're, they don't go out anymore. And
Are you going to write a book someday? I mean, I think you should. Probably, the stories that you've accumulated over the years.
I know.
Being on the road.
I don't know. Some people have to die first.
Well, there's more from Nathan in a little while, and another one of his great songs. And coming up, the one and only Baxter Black is back with his version of Springtime in the Rockies. A story and... Ever heard Baxter sing? Well, stay tuned and you will when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at Springtime in the Rockies. What holds the loaded 30,000-pound trailer to the heavy-duty truck? What holds the 38-foot RV trailer to the dually? What holds the 2-horse trailer with your daughter's favorite pony to the half-ton pickup? Well, the odds are it's a B&W trailer hitch, probably a turnover bowl, American-made, employee-owned, customer-tuned, and proud of their part in America's greatness. B&W, holding things together down the road. When it's springtime in the Rockies, my lips are turning blue, I'll be slogging through the blizzard like a brain-dead caribou. Ah, springtime. That first hint of life beginning anew, the annual transformation, the earth taking off its long john, shedding its skin, clearing its throat, in long tubercular coughs that turn rain into birdshot, sleet into ice, ice into snowflakes shaped like goat heads or barbed wire, not falling, but slicing by you like shrapnel, sandblasting your face, freezing your rained hand into a claw, and turning 45 degrees and balmy into a salt with intent to stupefy. Ah, springtime. Brave wildflowers bursting from winter's blanket, the trill of a mountain bluebird, the exultation of a rushing brook, the whine of a spinning tire, the splock of pliers dropped from your hand, the rattle of mud tags on a feedlot steer that make him sound when he walks like a limping Moroccan bride, that half-brave, half-scared elation of aiming your truck toward the muddy dirt road ruts like a boat captain docking with the current. Ah, springtime. The anticipation of a new bride, or a butterfly waking in his cocoon, the weatherman declaring winter's over, angels celebrating the vernal equinox by hosing out Gabriel's hog confinement shed and revving up the wind chill machine for one last recalibration. Ah, springtime. For me, it's best viewed through a picture window, sitting by a fire. Once again you'll hear me promise you'll be hearing from me soon. When it's springtime in the Rockies, I'll be calling from Cancun. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
Just ahead of the rangeland news, there is a tradition in the West that's been going on since the 1800s. After a couple of months of riding through the herd, sometimes being up all night, doing whatever it takes to keep those baby calves alive and well. After the last calf hits the ground, we go from ranch to ranch. Everybody has their job, and most of the time, mine's on my horse with my rope, and often I'll have my old guitar handy, and it's a big social event with a lot of work, a lot of fun, and a lot of good food. It's branding day, and here's a ranch wife who knows all about it, Jean Prescott.
It happens mostly in the spring when all the calves are here. Excitement builds as plans are made for branding day each year. The rancher calls a list of names he's jotted in his book. The wife starts making plans for all the things she's gonna cook. Biscuits, beans, and steak and gravy, fried taters piled up high, green beans from summer's garden, homemade cakes and pies. They'll wash it down with iced tea and coffee with dessert. And with the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work. He lines up vaccine bottles, she bakes dozen pies. The day before they'll set up pins, she'll feed a dozen guys. Then finally Brandon Day arrives, he's lined up quite a bunch. She'll cook dinner and supper, along with that there's lunch. Biscuits, beans, and steak and gravy, fried taters piled up high, green beans from summer's garden, cakes and pies. They'll wash it down with iced tea and coffee with dessert. And with the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work. Of course, the more help he has, the more she has to do. It takes a lot of beef and beans to feed a branding crew. After hauling chairs and tables and working several days, Brandon's finally over and she crawls in bed and prays. If I should die before I wake, I pray I never have to bake another cake, another pie on that big ranch way up in the sky. But soon the rooster's crowing and fresh new day begins, and it won't be long till next year when it's Brandon Day again. Biscuits, beans, and steak and gravy, fried taters piled up high, green beans from summer's garden, homemade cakes and pies. They'll wash it down with iced tea and coffee with dessert. And with the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work. With the thank you ma'am, they'll tip their hats and get back out to work.
the news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West. We'll tell you what's new under the western sky right after this word from the cattlemen of Western Canada.
Nothing says summer like a steak on your barbecue. To get the most out of your ranch-raised beef, keep uncooked meat cold, use a meat thermometer, and thoroughly clean all kitchen surfaces. BC ranchers want you to have your best beef experience this summer. From the pasture to your plate, food safety is everyone's responsibility.
Now, the Rangeland News, top of page 1, that severe wildfire that tore through Kansas and adjoining states is causing some concerns about long-term cattle disease implications. Dave Rethurst, a Kansas State University veterinarian, says the massive Anderson Creek fire may have some long-term cattle disease implications as cattle from different herds were mixed together.
You know, we've had herds mixed together that typically aren't mixed together, so are we getting any disease transmission there? You know, for example, are we getting some BVD virus mixed from herd to herd, or because there's no fences and we've got cows and bulls mixing, you know, if there's a trichomoniasis herd in the county, we could, you know, be getting some trichomoniasis spread from herd to herd. So there's some issues on this that are going to take a while to play out.
Walmart Stores, Inc. says it's aiming to phase out the sale of eggs from caged hens by 2025, becoming the largest, most influential food retailer to set a deadline for switching to cage-free eggs. Walmart said it would require that egg suppliers adopt an industry standard for treatment of hens by 2025 and have their compliance monitored by a third party. And that announcement makes Walmart the latest retailer to put a firm timetable on the change, joining the likes of McDonald's, which sets a deadline of 2025, and Burger King, which is committed to going 100% cage-free for its eggs by 2017. New research supported by the U.S. Beef Checkoff showed that high-quality protein can help increase physical function during weight loss in older obese adults. The research published in the Journal of Gerontology Medical Sciences showed that eating more protein from foods like lean beef as part of a well-reduced calorie diet can help obese older adults with limited ability to exercise and lose weight and increase physical function. The great cowboy, horse trainer, singer, and author Rusty Richards received a well-deserved honor from the Western Heritage Museum and Cowboy Hall of Fame on April the 16th. Congratulations, Richie, as we are Rusty, well-deserved. Bovine viral diarrhea, and we all know it as BVD, is costing the U.S. cattle industry as much as $2.5 billion a year due to sick animals, treatment expense, and untimely deaths. What we spend on preventative measures could be added into this, said an agricultural economist, Darrell Peel of Oklahoma State University. He said producers may not realize the full impact of losses because they may not know they have the disease in their herds. And, of course, calves die without explanation or a secondary infection from BVD. And this item comes from Les McIntyre country. The late Bill Long probably wasn't a website surfer, but the endowment fund he created in the name of his uncle and fellow Alberta rancher Harry Stewart Varley will this year be used to create websites and social media for all the towns and villages in Vulcan County. The $30,000 for the project was awarded March 31st by the Community Foundations of Lethbridge in southwestern Alberta, which administers the fund, and the money will be used to develop or update existing websites for the town and the villages in the county, and devise a social media presence in the form of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And boy, I'm really looking forward to being back to the Ivan Danes Country Music Picnic this August. Can you believe it's the 30th annual? Really missed being there last year. I reluctantly had to cancel due to some health issues, but we're looking forward to this one. Oh yeah, and the next pre-sort sale at the Innisfail Auction Market is April the 18th. Good idea to get your calves in to be weighed on Sunday for the Monday sale. And the regular sales, of course, every Wednesday, and horse sales twice a month. Get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. That takes us down to the final item. Oh boy, Grady McHugh, guy I was in broadcasting with years ago, sent us some of these ideas for those of us who might still be fighting the grow old gracefully thing. Like this one. I changed my truck horn to gunshot sounds. Now people get out of the way much faster. Gone are the days when girls used to cook like their mothers. Now they drink like their fathers. And you know that ugly or that little tingly feeling you get when you really like someone? That's common sense leaving your body. And I kind of like this one. I didn't make it to the gym again today. That makes 5 years in a row. Oh yeah, and here's one more. At my age, getting lucky means walking into a room and remembering what I went in there for. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Horse Training File, the difference between an average rider and a top hand and how it really counts when you're moving cattle. And there's more from Nathan Tinkham when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. You know, there's something that the top hands, the great horsemen, know and are aware of that the average rider might overlook, but it makes a big difference in how effective a rider and a horse can be at efficiently moving cattle. That's the very interesting subject of the Horse Training File coming up right away. But first...
North to Alaska, they go north, the rush is on.
That's right. My wife Billy and I will be hosting a great group of Spirit of the Westers aboard the beautiful Holland America ship, the Noordam. And we'll sail out of the spectacular Vancouver Harbor, visiting Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Glacier Bay, and then we'll have 2 spectacular days of sightseeing in Denali National Park. Then we'll board the magnificent McKinley Railroad with their sightseeing dome cars and hopefully have a good look at North America's highest peak, Mount McKinley. And then it's on to Anchorage. We'll have our Western music concerts, sing-alongs, great food, and it's a trip that's been on the bucket list of a lot of folks for a long time. And this is important. You can save over $200 a person if you book before the 1st of May 2016 this year. Hey, that's a $400 savings per couple. And the whole package includes return airfare from Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, and includes ground transfers in Vancouver and Anchorage, plus all of our Spirit of the West group gatherings, all port and government taxes, all onboard meals, entertainment, and room service, and a special group reception, lots of networking opportunities, our special Spirit of the West gifts, the highly coveted Spirit of the West t-shirt, and a special Spirit of the West tour just for our group in Juneau. Now here's something else. If you like traveling by rail, we have an optional Rocky Mountaineer rail package to travel from Calgary to Vancouver, available on request. Our entire schedule with prices and everything else is available on the cruise page at our website, hugh-mclennan.com. And you can get all the information at this toll-free number, 1-800-530-0131. Okay, here's the Horse Training File. The wisdom of the masters. Now, those of us who are pretty serious about our horsemanship are really fortunate that we can absorb some real gems of wisdom from the masters like Jonathan Field, Martin Black, Miles Kingdon, and others like them. Now, I picked this one up from watching a Buck Brannaman video, and most of the time, I'm pretty aware of what lead my horse is in when he's loping, whether we're just making miles, circling in the arena, or going flat out trying to catch a cow, but there are times when I'm not aware of it. I like how Buck puts it. He says, if you saw me make a first ride on a colt, it would be pretty unlikely that he'd miss a lead when I lope him off. When I'm chasing a cow across the pasture, you better believe I know what lead I'm on every step of the way. If that cow changes direction, I'm changing leads. I've seen lots of cowboys tracking along in the left lead, the cow cuts off to the right, and the horse doesn't change leads, and he's going along like he's got a flat tire. You'll have a hard time staying with the cow when your horse is in the wrong lead. With me, I'm going to change leads and stay right on track. Well, with most of my horses, I can fairly easily do a lead departure in the one I want, but with my good little gelding Stanley, he for a long time has been locked in his right lead no matter what, except I've noticed when we are chasing a cow, his mind and my mind are on the cow, and I've realized that, wow, Now he's in his left lead when the cow's going left, and he seems to do that instinctively. And with some help from guys like Jonathan Field and Rod Olson, the Ivan Danes picnic a while back, they helped him get it much better. And I can actually sometimes get that left lead from a trot when I set it up properly. We can learn so much about a higher level of horsemanship from masters like these, and what I've learned is what they tell us and what they show us is just a very small portion of their vast storehouse of knowledge and experience. And by the way, if you'd really like to raise your level of knowledge, here's some of the locations of clinics that Miles Kingdon will be doing this season. May the 6th to the 8th, Coldstream Ranch Camp, Confidence and Cows. May the 28th, the Basics and Beyond in Kamloops. June the 18th and 19th, Confidence and Introduction to Cows in Merritt. July 1st to 3rd, Coldstream Ranch Camp starting to develop the bridle horse, Coldstream Ranch in Vernon. And he's got several more over the summer. And you can get more information by calling Miles at 250-315-7573. You know, something else that keeps our horses looking good and feeling good is that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. Find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. Boy, I have enjoyed the visit with Nathan Tinkham here over the last couple of weeks, and we'll get back to a conversation with Nathan after another one of his songs, and I think you'll like this one.
Well, Alison lives by the Big Bend, far from the ocean, she knows. She'll spend all day just fighting the heat, then the next morning it snows. She left her home on the West Coast to follow a cowboy out there. 20 years later she's living alone with no one to watch or to care. The lines on her face have grown deeper, her fingers all blunted from toil. Such is the ravage that comes from living close to the dry desert soil. Just as the morning is stealing, in her hat, in her old working clothes, she rides out to cattle, living this life that she chose, where horses run wild and cattle wear horns, and everything else is covered with thorns. Back when the cholla was blooming, I stopped in just to see how my old friend was doing and what made her so different from me. Where horses run wild, cattle wear horns, and everything else is covered with thorns. Ghosts of bandits and rangers ride through the hills all around. The sun and the wind and the year still haven't covered the blood on the ground. Well, this ain't no place for a woman. The country's too hard, so they say. But Alison never would listen to that kind of talk anyway. Where horses run wild and cattle wear horns, and everything else is covered with thorns. I thought of the last time I saw her, sitting so quiet and near. She closed her eyes as she listened for something that I couldn't hear.
Alison lives by the Big Bend. That's Nathan Tinkham, and I understand you're into producing music now, too.
I got a little recording studio at home, and I produce records for people. People come in, and I really enjoy that. It was like that for me working cattle. It was like a video game. Like, you knew if you're sitting here, that cow's not going to notice you. But you move ahead 5 feet, and you know
you're in her
you're
zone
in
now.
the push.
Yep.
You know, and so there was this. It was a mind. It was really. I really enjoyed it, and then to do it with some kind of grace, where you're not like rushing around and you know, and everything. And so I figured what I like about it is partly is the puzzle. You know, like, you know, figuring out how this thing works and paying attention to what's going on and then when the calf ran out, well, Curly Bob, he'd be the one chase after it, you know, and he'd be full tilt, you know, and so I would do, this is what I always enjoy this, as I was talking about with the band, is to take your part in it, like, and if I did my part right, everything went well, you know, and it was a real, and it's that whole thing about the patients to wait for the cue, and to be a part of a bigger machine. I really enjoy that. And that's what I like about being in a band. I'm happy to sit and just chunk out chords, because if you take me away, it'll suffer. But but at the same time, you feel it. You feel you're part of the conversation. And
just interesting what you're saying about, you know, standing beside Ian or whoever the lead singer was, and very important part of what he does. But now you're doing solo work and standing up there, and you did a great set this afternoon. Really enjoyed that. And but that's quite a bit different, you know, when you're up there.
Yeah, well, you know, I got by with it because I was a side man, and I'd always have somebody up there doing that, and it's an honorable thing. I love being a side man, but for me, with the things I want to achieve, I have to learn to be that guy, and I have been learning to be that guy.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful feeling when you realize you're communicating the story, and the audience is hanging on every word, and they're just sort of, you know that you're communicating this to them, and that's powerful stuff. Well, I hope you do too. Yeah. And Nathan, been great to meet you, and really appreciate you taking a little bit of time. And
my pleasure.
Good luck with the Wilf Carter tribute.
Yeah, you know, well, I'll be. I think that's going to be an easy book. Yeah. I think it'll be easy to book, and that's why I want to do it as a one-man thing. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, and I can go there. And I loved Wilf. I spent time with Wilf, and what a wonderful. He was what we all should be.
Right.
He was a wonderful man, and they don't make them like that anymore.
They sure don't.
They don't.
Well, you might enjoy Nathan's website. Simply nathantinkham.ca, Tinkham, where you can order his music and see some real interesting content. Coming up, it's this week's classic Song of the West, and Nathan will be playing lead guitar on it. Then it's a fascinating piece of cowboy poetry when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. This week's classic Song of the West goes back to 1927 when it was collected and published by Carl Sandburg in his American Songbag book. Sandburg says that he learned the song from Dr. T.L. Chapman of Duluth, Minnesota, who heard it from a badly injured cowboy being treated in his hospital room. The cowboy sang it, and many others, to the patients in his ward. Now, this is pretty cool. A recently discovered copy of Carl Sandburg's note, written back then, says this: a hoss wrangler brought a car of ponies to Duluth, Minnesota. The next day, after brave stunt riding, he was laid in a hospital bed with ruptures on both sides. He told the surgeon, Dr. T.L. Chapman, in a soft, forgiving voice, "That was a terribly bad hoss. Not only throwed me, but he trampled me." Out of the past years, this writer had Dr. Chapman's examination disclosed bones of both upper and lower legs broken, fractures of collarbones on both sides, numerous fractures of both arms and wrists, and many scars from lacerations and trampling. The bones knit any way that God and nature let them heal. And as his strength came back, he sang across the hospital ward in a mellow tenor voice, and they always called for more. One song was this one, The Colorado Trail. The trail in the song was a cattle route that branched off the main western trail in southern Oklahoma, heading northwest to Colorado. The song got its widest attention from the 1960 recording by the Kingston Trio, been done by Burl Ives, the Norman Luboff Choir, Tex Ritter and Johnny Cash, the Bardee Wranglers, Don Edwards, and many more. And the members of the Western Writers of America chose it as one of the top 100 Western songs of all time. For my money, though, the best version ever is this one from Ian Tyson with Nathan Tinkham on lead guitar.
Ride all the lonely night, ride through the day, keep the herd up moving on its way. Weep all ye little rains, when winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. Eyes like the morning star, cheeks like a rose. Laura was that pretty girl, God Almighty knows. Reap all ye little rains, where winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. Right through the stormy night, dark is the sky. I wished I'd stayed in Abilene, I was nice and warm and dry. Weep all ye little rains, where winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail. Weep all ye little rains, where winds wail, all along the Colorado Trail.
Well, the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight is all fired up for a fascinating look into the future of the cowboy world from Brian Solomon in the Time Capsule.
The buckaroos ride silent through the shadows of the sage. The planner of their days out there has rolled another page. Their ponies blow a wearied breath in rhythm with their stride, while every man in silence craves the ending of the ride. Jenkins is the foreman here, Russ Bailey just a kid. He wandered here from urban sprawl to see what cowboys did. Hawk and Murphy are aging hands who understand the trade. They never turn back from the call, although their mothers prayed. It was a kid who broke the deadlock. It was him that chose to speak about some capsule set for time he'd heard about last week. Old Hawky shifted in his saddle, his interest on alert. Maybe Cowboy should have one of those, I suppose it wouldn't hurt. So the next day being Sunday, they conjured up a plan or two to rig some cowboy gear and tack from the life of a buckaroo. And they found an empty gas drum that was galvanized and right. They'd seal it off with wagon grease and burlap bags pulled tight. Then wrap it up with barbed wire to keep the vermin out, and dig a hole down 20 feet, below the frost no doubt. But first a list of treasures from the rucksack in the shed, for future generations who lack plans to forge ahead. Some parts of broken harness and a can of Murphy's snuff. Hawk put in his long johns and some other clothing stuff. Jenkins had a side piece, an old Batch 44. He claimed his grandpa brought it home at the ending of the war. And Bailey throwed his Stetson in because it never fit. He said he had a new one and he'd start wearing it. A twisted spur that had no mate, some change from across the border, in a brand new Eaton's catalog in case you had to order. some wolf snares and a violin that never had its strings, a broken stirrup and 2 left gloves and other useful things, some creoline and Dr. Bell's in case you're feeling sick, and 80 back issues of the Cowboy Way with each new cowboy trick. It's 2,000 years later, the sun sets in the west. There is no sage or cowboys here that time could put to test. A humming sound approaches. It's a spacecraft from the skies. It softly lands and sends a probe outside to analyze. It zeroes that old gas drum and the green things squeal and hop and deatomize the soil away and beam the drum up top. They race down on their 3 hind legs and remove the rusted lid, then roll the one eye in their head. Then this is what they did. Green Leader grabbed the snuff can and ripped off a mighty chew. He hissed and glowed and passed it on to Green Man number 2. While he chased his down with creoline, as steam flew from his nose, and the 3rd one chewed on harness, while the 4th tried on the clothes. When they hefted the old 44, the bat she crapped the bed, and blowed off Green Two's tentacle. Yes, tentacle, I said. And they classed the lot as human waste, a danger to their plight, so they fixed a rocket underneath and launched a satellite. On the trail to cowboy heaven, there's a big old swinging gate. The tally man was checking tags, so our boys had to wait. Old Hawk spied that drum a-floating past, just sailing through the air, and Jenkins grabbed his catch rope and roped it fair and square. They dallied on a gate post and pulled their treasure home, the yearbook of their graduation when they set free to roam. And they was all a-grinning when Hawk said, "It seems to me, whoever sent this timely gift forgot the COD."
Well, thank you so much for making the ride this week, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. Thanks again to our great support crew. Mark and Kathy McMillan could not do it without you guys, and you can find out more about their great guest ranch at meadowsprings.com. If you get a chance, check the latest issue of Alberta Beef and Beef Illustrated magazines. Lots of good reading, and you can subscribe by calling Alberta Beef at 403-250-1090. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine at your newsstand or subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com or call 1-800-943-7336. And you'll find a nice picture of my wife Billy riding a pretty good horse and a true story about some of the adventures and wrecks that she survived. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.